I have 7:30, so I will call the meeting to order. And if Mike Speltz can vote for Tiffany, we can get started. And first up is the CUP for Catesby.
Good evening.
How are you?
Good. How are you? Assume everybody got what I submitted, because I didn't bring copies. I didn't know if I was
Yeah,
supposed
we have
to.
everything on our screen.
Okay. Do you want to give an overview of what the request is?
Yes,
Or-
please.
Okay, so basically, I'm looking for a, buffer reduction to, there's a 100-foot offset from the duck pond. If and looking to just get a buffer reduction down to the drainage easement, which would allow me to level out at the bottom of my stairs on my back patio, kind of level out the lawn so it's a little safer area to walk around back there. Wouldn't affect the drainage in any way into that, the drainage area, just on the, between myself and the duck pond. I think I submitted some photographs to kind of show you the approximate lines of the 100-foot offset and the drainage easement.
Did I have those? Did you send me those? Did you send me those?
Yes. Yeah.
So your address is 13, is your lot 41-13?
It's 41-17, actually.
Okay.
Just gonna look over your shoulder. It's not, see, I can't find it. I did get,
X off of that. Conscom, click on,
oh, yeah.
under 1212.
Oh, I thought that was the minutes.
So the drainage easement goes almost back to the end of your property?
Correct. I don't know if you can't find the,
You wanted to say-
it's either a PDF or a PowerPoint that had the additional photos.
I don't know that I got those.
They're in our folder as JPEGs.
Oh, those JPEGs?
Aren't those the Redfern
Is
ones?
it the Redferns?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I was gonna,
Sorry.
I take it back, never mind.
Is it not the Redferns?
No.
No?
No, it's Catesby.
I have one copy of a picture to pass around, if that might be helpful.
I'm sorry, I was so busy trying to get the plan up, I missed the second number on your lot.
41-17.
Thank you. Okay.
So if we're not gonna be able to find this picture, can we at least have them pass that around?
yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
So what is growing there now? Brush and trees and
Grass.
stuff?
It's my back lawn. It's just a significant slope.
And you want to fill it?
I want to put a retaining wall to be able to level out and put a patio at the bottom of my stairs from the back deck.
And where would that retaining wall be?
Would be right at the drainage easement line.
So that looks to be about the 50-foot buffer.
So if memory serves.
Oh, yeah, right there.
The developer asked for a buffer reduction from 100 feet to 50 feet. but it was limited to terrain alteration for the purpose of putting the development in. Am I remembering that right? Does that sound right from your point of view?
I don't know what Stabile had requested.
I mean, if, does this distance look right to you? Are we talking about this narrow white band here?
Correct. That's
So-
that's the difference between the 100-foot conservation line and the drainage easement.
Right here.
No.
No,
You want to put your wall up here?
correct.
And the 100-foot line is right on your house, right? On the structure?
Right, if you can see in the photo, the 100-foot line hits right at almost the bottom of the pad at the bottom of the stairs from the
Right.
back deck.
So
So-
that doesn't make sense.
Well, yeah, it does, because this is exactly what we talked about when they asked for that exception. We said, just wait, within a few years, somebody's gonna be up here trying to extend their patio or their yard or whatever into that area, and lo and behold, the truth has come to pass.
Then my question becomes, if one does it, are the rest of them going to do it? What's this, just one piece of retaining wall for, I don't know how wide the lot is, but just one piece of retaining wall? Or are your neighbors interested in putting a retaining wall in too?
I don't think my other neighbors on either side have quite the slope issue
Well,
that
I did go out there early on in this, after the houses were built, and just to see what was going on out there. And it is steep, it is awkward. But you bought it as is, you didn't buy it. You knew what was going on when you bought it, right?
Well, I didn't know exactly where that 100-foot line was till the house was put down and where they put the stairs off my deck.
Well, that's the developer, I think.
So how far is that 100-foot line from the back of your house?
Well,
Yeah, but
What's in the back?
because that's why I thought
yeah, so on the picture, the stakes on the left is
is the
approximately
100
where the
foot. So it's
100-foot line
right
is.
at your stairs.
Correct. And the stakes on the right is approximately where that drainage easement line is.
My comment is that the stairs go parallel with the buffer line. So it's not like you're coming down the stairs and you're stepping into the buffer. No, you're coming down the stairs and you can step off of the stairs and everything without being
Going
in the
in
buffer.
there. Oh, I see, he's got the diagram here.
And there's not room on the side of your house to just,
So
have a little sidewalk coming off the bottom of the,
I measured it roughly, it would be about 1.5 feet wide.
100-foot buffer, a couple of feet.
because of the next house over, you mean?
No, because of the 100-foot line.
But
I
it's
can't put a patio
into there.
off the, down the stairs to the side, because then I'd be hitting the property line with my neighbor.
How far into the buffer is that retaining wall planned?
On one side, probably about 4 or 5 feet, and on the other side, 2 feet.
And then during construction, you'd probably be into it with the equipment.
Probably not. Probably able to get it from the house side.
So your patio is only gonna be, how wide?
Oh, it'll probably be 10 by 12.
on this, the photo.
Yep.
The red arrow points to a stake that's at the edge of the buffer, correct?
Right, that's at the, you know, the 100-foot line
Right.
approximately.
And the row of stakes on the right are the edge of the drainage easement?
Correct.
Now, did your engineer install those, or how?
I use the drawings that I received from Stabile.
So you put the stakes in?
Yeah, based on the measurements of the diagram from the drawings I received from Stabile.
So if you say it's gonna extend from, let's say, the railing
Can you pass
of
that
the
back?
stairs
Yep.
toward the duck pond
Okay.
for
That's for the
10
picture.
feet.
No, probably be 5 feet.
Oh, because, so the first 5 feet is just on your property. Is that right? I mean,
Yeah, so hopefully the other drawing is a little more helpful. That, the drawing on the, you have the picture on the left and the drawing on the right.
Right.
If you zoom in on, you know, the drawing you have shown on the video monitor, on the 4117, you keep drilling in. Really, it's the difference between that first line on the top, right, with that one,
Yeah.
and then the next line, which is the drainage easement.
right, so if the width of your lot is 61 feet, right?
Yep.
Just using it to scale, then it looks to me like that what area between the two lines that you're talking about is maybe 6 feet, 8 feet,
Yeah, at most.
but you're gonna have a patio that's 10 feet, and your house is right at the end, on that line.
Right, the patio, so the house, you have the stairs coming down, and the wall of the foundation of the house is above it. So the patio would be here, so I get the width of the stairs plus the additional 5 feet for a patio. And it also, you know, the side benefit, it helps me address a runoff issue between my house and 4116, where the slope is so great, we've never been able to get grass to fully grow in the middle. It keeps washing out, so it would help me solve that issue too.
So 16 is downslope from you?
Well, 16 is northeast of me, right?
Right, but it's down, it's lower in elevation.
No, I think his backyard, their backyard is about the same, slightly higher.
So the issue of growing grass is just between the backs
Right.
of your houses and the,
Right in the middle, it's, yeah.
How far does your lawn extend into the buffer area?
And it goes to, well, you can see from the picture, I think the lawn ends right at the drainage easement, because then below that is sort of this trough with cattails and the like, and there's the drainage that runs off of that catches all the runoff from all the houses, that runs to a catch basin that's off to the right of that drawing.
So you already have lawn growing in the buffer, which is not a permitted use.
Lawn is between the 100-foot conservation line
That's what
and
I'm
the
saying, the
drainage
100-foot
easement.
conservation line, you're not supposed to have lawn extending closer to the wetland than that 100-foot buffer. That 100-foot conservation line.
Well, then that would
Mike,
be,
can you give us any insight into what, when the original subdivision went in, what the arrangement was? I know that they asked for a diminution of the buffer.
Right.
And we recommended against it, and ultimately, they allowed it with some conditions, and I'm not sure what those conditions are, but we have, the buffer ordinance allows us to give a conditional use permit for certain uses.
Right.
A patio is not one of them. That's a problem. Unless there's something of record that talks about what they got with that extra 50 feet.
Right.
And I'm not trusting my memory to tell you exactly what that was.
Because I can't remember which way it went, which way the decision went.
I think it went against the Conservation Commission's recommendation.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah, but I don't know if I don't think they just eliminated the buffer. I don't think they just cut it in half. But I can't remember, so, I mean, I don't know how to,
You'd have to see what the planning board approved.
yeah, exactly. I don't know that we could give you an answer this evening. I mean, I think if you may already have the right to do what you're asking for, in which case, that's great for you at least. Or it may be that you're asking us to authorize something that we don't have the authority to do. In other words, it would be a question of going to the zoning board and actually getting a variance to that part of the zoning ordinance that sets up the buffer.
No, I understand. I mean, I originally was thinking that I could level out my yard wherever my lawn was till my lawn ended. But then I made sure I checked the drawing and realized the lawn goes between the 100-foot buffer line and the drainage easement line. So I was just doing my due diligence
Right.
to make sure I was abiding by those,
And you may be, I mean, there may not be an issue here. I just, we didn't do our homework to know, to dig that file out and remind ourselves what's in that variance.
Did you have a chat with anybody in planning when you brought this plan in?
I mean, the planning board?
No,
Or-
planning department. Upstairs.
Well, when I first brought this up, I went upstairs and asked, well, what's the process?
Okay.
They gave me the form and said I had to go through Conservation Committee and the Planning Board. And I guess you got first dibs at it.
Okay, so you didn't really have them look up anything or,
No.
okay. Because maybe that's just the step that we missed is, unfortunately, to have you go back upstairs to planning and ask. Somebody's going to have to help you because you'll never be able to read through the whole,
That is true.
it's, this thick. But there is something in there about this, we just can't remember which way the decision went.
There's nothing on the notes of this plan? It should be, because I think this is the final,
Is this that's what I was gonna say, is it the final plan?
right,
I thought it was.
so it should be there.
Question is, what page are we on?
Yeah, and can you see it?
Well, you can always zoom.
I'm zooming out first.
So there's a conditional use permit that was approved on 8/1/18.
That was 5 years ago.
Planning board gave 2 waivers, one for cleansing velocity and one for drainage pipe cover, neither of which help us.
What page are,
Yeah.
That's on the very first
Very first page.
page.
Oh, okay.
It should be there. But so if we could look up what that conditional use permit was, that might help us. But there's no way to get at that online, right, Mike?
I don't think we have it scanned.
I'm not seeing anything. So is that where we need to leave it?
Yeah, I think so. I think we need to look at that conditional use permit. I mean, I hate to drag you out here for another meeting. But I think it's just gonna be a matter of looking that up and then, you know, having a telephone conversation, and, you know, we can get back to you after we've looked at it, and we can certainly share it with you. Or you could go up and ask for the conditional use permit from the planning department. It's,
Yeah, unfortunately, I travel during the week for business, so it's difficult to get up there during the week.
right. Yeah, we could follow through, because right now, we're the ones that are obstructing the process here. So, Mike, can you just email out the 8118 conditional use permit and see, so we can see what it says?
Yeah, I can take a look.
And then from there, we can at least give you a call, and if you give us your contact information, and either it's one of those two things, I think. Either you already have what you need, or it's gonna be a problem and you'll have to go to the zoning board. But I don't even wanna commit to that until we look at this and understand what it is.
Okay,
I have your email.
great.
So, you want your picture back?
Yeah. You can keep it.
Oh,
I
okay.
can print extra.
All right, thanks.
I'm sorry we can't give you a firm answer.
Yeah,
No, understood. It was probably not the easiest when I look at the drawings, so I appreciate that. All right, thank you.
thanks. The waste management isn't on there anymore, so. Oops.
Right, no waste management.
Right. I'm looking for the agenda. Oh, there we are. All right, I'm just gonna see if Jason from Litchfield wants to say anything, or just introduce yourself, and,
Sure. I've got presents too.
ooh,
And that's what I got, that's for.
Thank you. Well, that's a nice green.
Thanks. Yeah. So, good evening. My name's Jason Brennan. I'm the chair of the Litchfield Conservation Commission. Vice chair is Joan McKibben. I think she knows a few of you.
Yeah, I
you
know
That was the
folks
name
up
of
here.
it.
She couldn't be here tonight. Reason why I'm here is earlier this year in the Litchfield Conservation Commission, every year we set a goals list, to do these 10 things during the year. A couple of examples might be, build a new trail, clean up a piece of property, hold a community event. One of the things we wanted to do this year was visit a neighboring conservation commission just to introduce ourselves. So, and with that, I think the goal is just to maybe open up the lines of communication. It's kind of interesting to be able to bounce ideas, have folks around in other communities just to see how they're approaching certain situations, just like we saw here a couple of minutes ago. Just for fun, I quickly printed out a map of the conservation areas in Litchfield. And I've studied your map as well. And back in the day, I'm a GIS guy by trade. I set up the GIS environment here way back 15 years ago with John Bogle and Andre
goodness.
Guerin and all those folks way back then. So I know your conservation areas pretty well. And personally, I live right on the Litchfield-Londonderry line where the musquash is, and the trails are right in my backyard. So I thought it'd be kind of neat to just kind of like show you a couple of things around here. If you take a look at the map, and then I numbered these out. These are kind of our main conservation areas. With number 1 in the upper left, Moores Falls is like our most popular conservation area. It runs along the Merrimack River. There's probably thousands of people that walk that trail every single year. And then like going down Route 3A, 2, 3, and 4 are other properties that we have on the Merrimack River, the river access. We have something called the Muster Field, which is an old historic farming property, piece of property. It's got cellar holes and stuff on it. And then number 4 is like our community garden, which we just launched this year, which is in an old farm field, and we have, I don't know, 4 or 5 plots out there this year. And then the big one, number 5, is the state forest, which connects up with the Musquash, and they're kind of co-joined. And actually, if you look at those properties, the 2 ones that are labeled S, those are state properties. And all the little green ones labeled T, where a lot of the trails go through, are actually town properties. So even though you're kind of think you're in the Litchfield State Forest, there's a lot of town-owned properties and conservation properties around there. And we kind of maintain the trails through there and maintain the other trails that we have in town. We do get requests from folks like with the mountain biking community to come clear out, help out trails, just like I think you do on your side of the line. And that's been pretty helpful in some areas. But other than that, I just want to throw this map out on the table and just, introduce myself. Might be good to get together once a year or something like that. I had personally had questions on like how you guys handle maintaining your properties. We're out there every weekend. Our commissioners are basically out there every weekend, cutting down trees and, maintaining our properties. We've got a ticket system. We can scan a QR code when you get to a property. If you have an issue, you scan a QR code, it sends us an email, notifies us if there's any issues going on at the property, and then we go out there. It's kind of, it's high-tech yet low-tech. It works for us. So I was just curious on a couple of those things. Like, how do you maintain your properties?
We apparently have little good fairies that just do it for us. Things just get cleaned up, blowdowns seem to just get cut up and moved to the side. We do have a group called Londonderry Trailways,
Yep.
and if people are out, they'll do it, but the mountain bikers are the superstars out there doing things. Like, I was just texting back and forth this week with them that there was a blowdown and the root ball lifted up one of the boardwalks.
Yeah.
So nobody could walk over it, so they said, is it okay if we fix that? It's like, of course it is. So they're out there and just
Yeah, that's-
always on top of that sort of thing.
Do you have cleanup days, things like that?
We haven't. The Trailways has done it in the past. Yeah, we're pretty lucky with that.
They do a really, they help us out in the state forest. The state forest itself is a little bit more difficult because you have to go through the state to actually do
Get
anything
permission.
there. So there's like another couple of hurdles that you have to go through. But they've actually helped out quite a bit on the T properties where we've needed bridging, and it's worked out pretty
Now,
well.
do you still have trails that connect with our trails in that area?
Yes, yep. The main trail, like the Heron Trail, when it goes across the power lines and comes into Litchfield, it comes to what I call the Four Corners, which is the Heron Trail. It goes down to Tanager.
Right.
It becomes the Litchfield State Forest, and then there's the Three Sisters Trail, and there's like a big four-way right there. That's pretty much where Litchfield begins, and we maintain those trails all through there, and it works out pretty well. It's heavily used.
Yeah.
A lot of mountain bikers we have a pretty good parking area at the Litchfield State Forest.
Okay.
So a lot of the mountain bikers will park at the Litchfield State Forest by the Pink House, if you've ever
Oh,
gone
yes,
through there.
right
There's a
across
big,
the
beautiful
street,
pink
yeah.
house. And they'll park there and they'll go into the Musquash from Litchfield and then come back out.
'Cause you
I've done
guys-
10 miles without crossing my path
Yeah.
through the
Wow.
Litchfield State Forest.
You guys just did some logging in there, right?
The state did. The state did the logging. So that's in that dark green where the S is. That's where they did the logging. Our maintenance is done, you know, some by the mountain biking folks off the Litchfield State Forest, but the rest is pretty much done by us and volunteers.
Wow.
And we have like, fields, so it's like a little bit different. So some of our conservation properties are farm fields that are along 3A. And so we actually lease some of our conservation property to McQueston Farm.
Oh, nice.
And they plant corn there and stuff. And so a lot of times we're mowing, we have a tractor. We have a little Kubota tractor with a bucket on it. We're out in with a brush hog and we mow back and forth. It's kind of fun.
We have a conservation ranger
Love.
with an ATV.
So question on that, for the conservation ranger, what's the range of duties?
It's the what?
The range of duties on a daily basis? Types of things,
We have 4,200 acres conservation area between the power lines and everything. I just patrol, go out there 3 days a week, everywhere.
ATV trespassers is an issue.
What I normally do is like, I'll go on the rail trail that goes from Derry to the airport, and I can break off there, I go up by the airport, hit up on the Musquash area, just go anywhere with that.
how do you patrol, you ATV or?
I have a pickup truck, I'm a sworn police officer with the town. I retired as a sergeant, so 5 years now, doing it, into my 5th year anyways. And we, Conservation Commission bought an ATV, usually keep that on the truck. Have a nice little office back here, away from the big building.
We have 0 employees.
Yeah, well, this was a major coup for us to,
Yeah,
it took us a long time to get it. And he also helps us with monitoring. And if we have issues with encroachments or something, he's our authoritative figure.
how many other does Derry have a conservation
We're
officer?
the only
Only
one.
one.
Because I was following that, and that's the only one that I've seen. It's almost like having, fishing game
Yeah.
type of ranger out
Fishing
there.
game's awesome, but they're hard to get.
Very hard.
They're so stretched out and they're so short-handed like everybody else.
Yeah.
I'll gladly sit down with you someday and go over everything whenever you want.
I think it would be good. I think it's good for us to learn how other commissions do things. And
Yeah, we had to get a little creative in order to make it happen, but it worked,
Huh.
so.
Excellent. So if anybody has any questions,
To your question about keeping the trails clear too, our angels are very good, but they're not that good. And so, we had a big ice storm last year, or the year before, and I spent 2 weeks in the Musquash with a chainsaw. And occasionally people will contact Marge and tell us that there's a knockdown on a specific trail. And if it's something I can handle by myself, I just do it.
Yep.
But it's big enough that, you know, I don't have the knees anymore. I certainly can't walk all the Musquash trails in a day or two. It's longer than that. And longer still if I'm carrying a saw. But-
yeah,
So, they do help us an awful lot. They probably, unless there's a specific storm, and the one I'm talking about was an ice storm that probably closed about a third of the trails.
wow.
But when it's something like that, then it's a big problem. Here's a bad spot. The mountain bikers usually just get it.
Did the state do not clear cutting, did they do selective cutting didn't they do selective cutting near the Musquash where the trails go through, I think, on the
Yeah.
other side of the power lines on
That
yours?
was the
Mathis property?
the Mathis
On the
property.
Mathis,
Yeah.
yeah. And then we've had Fish and Game was funding a project to create habitat for the New England cottontails.
Yep.
So we did a lot of clear cutting with that, and that's kind of fizzled out. Apparently, it was not a successful experiment.
I have one last question. Budgeting, how's your budgeting work? Are you, operational funds, do you have an operational account? And then using the what we call our conservation fund, land use change tax for special projects? How's
We
that
have a
work?
budget of about $3,500.
Okay, we're in the same ballpark.
But we
That-
do have an operational account which has been established even before we got our land use, our conservation fund. And we have pretty much set that aside for forest management, which is our next topic, our topic tonight. And we also reserved money in there, which we earned from some of the rabbit cut, in case we needed to come in with a brush hog and thin if this had worked. So there's money, that's where our big operational money comes from. And ideally, we do a forest cut, and then profits from that go into forest management too.
But any of our acquisitions are from the land use change tax or grants. We've been successful with getting several grants approved that have helped out a lot.
All right.
And two, if you get into the 36A regs, that conservation money, depending on how you've worked it through the town and the vote, can be used for land protection situations, so.
Ours is as well.
Yeah,
You know,
that's-
we try not to dip into that, you know, you're really trying to dip into that for more like capital land purchase or
It's hard though
something major.
sometimes.
That's it sounds like it's your philosophy as well.
Well, I think we've spent quite a bit of it on not land, but
Right.
it's to maintain the land or to finish off a project. If we can get the grant to buy the land, that we need extra money, we get it out of there. And it's okay, it's legal.
We have, our budget's like about 3,500 as well. We have maybe about 1,000 for maintenance, which would be like chainsaw blade, mowers, things like that. Then the rest goes to dues, is like $500. And then in addition to that, we have a programs budget. So we'd have like a fishing derby. And we try to do a couple of programs a year. And so that's what gets funded out of our operational
Yeah,
account.
and we also pay our CCD to do some of our monitoring, and that will come out of there.
All right. Might be interesting at some point to have a, I don't know, sidebar conversation. I'm just kind of curious to see how.
I feel like we did that like 25 years ago.
The board has
Maybe not that it
changed
is
around a
time,
little
not that
bit.
But I remember with Joan, she was pretty proactive on getting people together.
She's still
Tell her
very
hi-
heavily
Tell her hi
involved.
from Deb.
Yeah.
We
I
used to
think the
get out
impetus
there a
of
lot.
that, what you're remembering, because I was part of that too, was trying to figure out how to promote connections between the two towns' open spaces, which to me is still an area that's ripe for, consultation and cooperation. I mean, looking at the map, some of the logical candidates are pretty well built out in Litchfield. But, identifying some ways of linking basically the Musquash to the river, I think would be a worthwhile endeavor.
That's a goal, and it's so on the Litchfield side, we actually created internally a conservation plan, and I could share it with you folks, which the ultimate goal would be able to get from the Musquash or the Litchfield State Forest to the river. And there are ways to do it. We do own pieces of property. There are wet areas in there that make some of the, make it not very passable without putting up bridges. But if you look at the map, I think it's number 3 or 4, it's called the Muster Field. That's a beautiful piece of property overlooking the Merrimack River. And on the exact opposite side of that is called Sklar Park in Merrimack, which is a conservation area in Merrimack that's directly across the river from the Litchfield Muster Field. The Muster Field, if you go up and down 3A, is where the old white church is in the old middle of town, like over here. That's where the Muster Field is. A grand, I think, goal for us would be able to connect the Litchfield State Forest, which connects to the Musquash, to be able to get down to the river. We don't have that right now unless you go down Hillcrest Road, which is Wiley Hill Road, which is not very safe.
Yeah.
But we do have the bike path that goes down Albuquerque. So there's a way that you can come out of the Musquash, get into the Litchfield State Forest, pick up the bike trail, which goes up and down Albuquerque, and then we're looking for ways to get down to the river. That's like big goal of ours, to connect them all together, where you could almost go from the beginning of the Musquash all the way down down to the river.
That would be awesome.
So I'll
Great.
shoot you an email at some
All right,
point,
yeah.
point in time. I just wanted to introduce myself, throw it out there. Nice to hear how other folks are doing things.
Great, thanks for
Thank you.
coming.
Jason,
Thanks for taking the
Jason.
time,
And I'm gonna
Jason.
listen to the next part.
You might find that instructive.
You're up next.
Okay. Under presentations, you'll find the Musquash. This one? Yes. All right, well, hello. Again, we met maybe about 9 months ago, last spring. And at that time, I made a presentation on forest management plans. And talking to Deb, I had been intending to come back with a detailed proposal. And so I have a short PowerPoint with very much details. It would take us all night to go through all the details, but I will submit an electronic copy of everything to you afterwards, Marge. And then we could just kind of filter through the slides. And I don't want to take all night doing it, but I have the plan, proposed content, cost, and timeline, basically. Okay? So, first slide. First off, Nick, who works closely with me, Forrester, and is very good with GIS. I think I had mentioned that to you before. He teaches a class at UNH and has been really great with this. We pieced together a proposed area that the forest management plan would cover. So as you remember, the general area that we've always known, plus the Colby lot and the Lorden lot, which are contiguous to it. And all told, that adds up to about 1,015 acres. So it's pretty amazing. When I first started with the Conservation Commission, Gene Harrington was on the board back in the 1980s. It was around 500 acres. So this is how much you guys have expanded the conservation area. It's really incredible. There are other conservation properties nearby, but they're not contiguous. So we thought this would be a good block to start off with, if that's okay with you. And of this, there's a breakdown. It's probably hard to see, of acreages. There's roughly 600 acres of forest, and there's the early successional patches, which are about 45 acres. Power lines, I think, were about 45 acres. I'm doing this from memory at this point. Areas that are going to be inaccessible, about 45 acres, and wetlands about, I think, around 250 acres, if I remember right. So, okay, so next slide. So this is a real, like, bird's eye overview of what is in the plan. And besides the executive summary, which is one page in the front, and the table of contents, there's about 7 chapters that are, there'll be, I'll have another slide that specifies the maps more, but maps, introduction, there's a lot in each of these, the management objectives and scheduling. Land and forest management is all the logistics of the management. And I'll talk about that in a bit. Natural resources, we'll talk about that. Ecological concerns, forest types, and then appendices. So, next slide. So these are the proposed maps, and this will be for a very complete plan for this, really spectacular piece of land that the town owns. That's pretty unique in this part of the state. So the major maps that I'll point out here, the full-size maps, are physical and natural features map, which are all the, you've seen these maps before, but I have done some mapping like this for the town already, with all the vernal pools, streams, trails, everything are on that. And the forest type mapping is very central to forest management plan. And management recommendations map ties in all the recommendations of the plan on a map. And then I have a list of 7 embedded maps, which are inside the text. And several of these are important. The management compartment map kind of will be part of the planning process, but I'll kind of, 1,000 acres is a lot to get your head around. So to kind of separate out the property into sections, that's an important part of it. And then the management template, there will be areas that are managed. We have done management out there years ago, and more recently with the rabbit harvests, rabbit area harvests. But there are also other areas that would be designated as reserves where we kind of leave it to the course of nature. And there'll be a lot more detail about that. But this map would show all of the layout of that and the acreages. Property access map and the watershed and the wetland systems map. So, okay, next slide. So I have a series, I couldn't get this all on one slide, there's no way. So there's a series of 4 slides, and I'll just fly through this, but this is very detailed proposed content for the plan that would really give you a full plan. Maps, introduction, management objectives, and I talked a little bit about that. Part of our process will be to do a good amount of field work and mapping, and then get together with the Conservation Commission to talk about objectives. And we could screen share maps and really go over it. And this can be done as a Zoom meeting, and I really like having Nick present with that as well, because he'll have a lot to add. But we often find that a Zoom meeting works well as well for that. So there's a back and forth that we have to have with you to really pin down the management objectives for the property and all the details of the management. And then the summary of all the recommendations with year-by-year scheduling is important. Okay, next page. So again, there's 4 parts to all this, 4 pages to this. So there's a lot here. This is the land management section. We talked a little bit about compartments, the management template, access, public uses and recreation. The forest management part is pretty important. A whole section about sustainability and even about forest carbon. We can write about that. And the management of the early successional areas that were created with fish and game that we're all pretty aware of. So I'm not sure that there is that much there as far as cultural and historic resources. You know, like there might be something around the old Alexander Road area for cellar holes and whatnot, but I'm not so sure how much there is in the rest of the property. So that may not be a very large section, but you may be telling me otherwise. And
Well, we actually have somebody who has inventoried all the cellar holes, and there's a
Great.
mill foundation, and he can tell you who lived there, where their kids moved, so,
is that all documented?
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That might be something we can share with you.
Yeah, that would be great. We could add that into as a, I'll kind of paraphrase it a little bit and get it down to
Yeah.
something that's, fits in with the rest of the plan. So that would be great. Because this is a good place to kind of document all the land, what's going on with it. And property line maintenance. Okay, next page. All right, so this is a real big part of meat of the report. Just a general discussion of the 4 basic natural resources, the forest resources, including not just the species composition, but the structure of the forest, why it is the way it is, and the objectives of management. Wildlife and habitats, we'll kind of tie it in a little bit with the New Hampshire Wildlife Action Plan, but more so a description of habitats and the wildlife that's using the musquash and recommendations. Water resources, you could see, I have several parts to that, subsurface, surface waters, and soils. Okay? And then 4th page on that. So ecological concerns, there may be more than this, but threatened and endangered species, we certainly know about the New England cottontail, but there are other critters out there. I know I've seen spotted turtle out there, and there may be blandings, and the bats, northern elongated bat, and whatever. So there are probably other. And anyway, so various things. There is issues with invasive plants, and I did think about this. That is actually another map that we could create, which would be mapping the invasive plant areas, because that could help strategize, how to work, inform a strategy of how to deal with that, how to approach that. So I didn't even add that into this outline, but that is another piece to this. And then forest types and prescriptions. So the forest has all the various areas. We've talked about that in the past, but this is a real description of each and the data that goes with that. And silvicultural objectives and prescriptions for the next 25 years, how to manage this forest. I'm not sure if I said much about data in general, but a big part of the plan would be to do an actual forest inventory. And that's done by, we would take we could do a lot of plots, but a reasonable number is about 100, so that 100 data plots, so that we have a decent estimate, a decently precise estimate of what's out there. And if the more plots you do, the more precise you get, but that just takes a lot of time.
Do you categorize it by age and species and?
Yes, yeah. So we in each data plot, we're gathering information about the species, the forest structure. We'll be able to do just some graphics on all of that, and actually how much timber is out there, the density of the forest, and the value of everything. And that's not to necessarily say, well, go out there and cut this much timber. It's more to give a baseline of what's there, so that in 25 years, if it's re-inventory, you'd know where you stand, and in 50 years, et cetera. So also, I am planning to work with this on some other properties in the coming months, is to estimate the amount of forest carbon from the density of the forest and the height of the trees. And there's some modeling that's been done out there, and we're going to try to work with that. I haven't done it yet, but we're going to try to work with that. So that may be something that I could also bring to the plan if you're interested in that. Okay, and then the appendices would be a list of the observed tree and shrub species. What are some of the Natural Heritage Bureau data, the latest thing on that. So that's a proposed content, very complete analysis of the forest and documentation of what you have there. And then also a guide to the management, which I think would probably document what you're already doing, but also set you on a course. And then this would be informative for future conservation commissions. We're not all going to be here forever, right? So you'll have something there to carry on. So, okay, and then I think I had another slide or two. So I took all those sections, and I don't know how hard, that might be hard to see this. Thanks, yeah, you can. All right, so the field work, I'm thinking about a little over 100 hours there between the forest inventory, and then we spend a lot of time just walking the forest, and I have done a lot of that in the past, but just assessing the land, the forest types, the habitats, getting a sense of any resource concerns, the access logistics and all of that for management, and mapping. And then the second part is the actual plan preparation. So I don't know if you want to pan up a little bit there, but I allocated, if we have a Zoom meeting with Nick and myself and you, I figured about 2.5 hours long, and it's 2 of us, so about 5 hours for that. The report preparation, about a little over 100 hours is what I'm estimating. It might be more than that, but if we add in more about the invasive plant stuff. But so there you are. The data analysis, once we collect the data on a tablet and we now have it all programmed so we can directly load it in to our, we've programmed all the calculations now, so that's so much easier than the way I used to do it. So anyways, about 136 hours, it could be, possibly a little bit more than that even, but, and then I wanted to, it's not just that you have the plan, now what do you do with this? So I was gonna suggest this process, that we would submit a draft plan that's pretty near complete. And this way you can review it, add comments if there's things that we need to change or clarify or add to it, or if you want to delete something, we can. So and we might have a Zoom presentation to go over it once everybody's had a chance to read it. And then I just roughly estimated about 6 hours for revisions, who knows. I'm hoping that draft will be pretty near complete. But then once we have that pinned down, I would do a final draft submission, an electronic copy sent to you so you can do a final review. And if that looks good, then we would actually print. I have 6 hard copies, but you may want more than that, or maybe that's too many, I don't know. Certainly having the electronic copy is important, but I know with some towns, they'll store some in the library. The Conservation Commission always has a few copies, and it's easier for me to produce the hard copies all at once at this point than to try to do it later. So, okay. And then of course, to follow up with a presentation, prepare a PowerPoint and a presentation to give to you as well as the town officials as well as the public. Okay. And that can even be followed, I didn't put it in here, but it could even be followed up with a field walk in the spring or whatever. So, and then I just had some administrative costs. So it roundly came out to around 275 hours. A plan of this completeness and complexities is going to be that. Anyways, so the next slide, I think I have a timeline. Here we go. We would start off with the forest inventory and probably get started in like July of this coming summer. And then we would have our research done, which would include meeting with the GIS department here in town. But a lot of the maps, it's just analysis that we're bringing to it that doesn't really exist, So, you have great trail maps and whatnot, but there's a lot of things there that, like forest typing and, the hydrology and all that. We just would bring that to it. And Nick already, in producing that simple map that he did to come up with an acreage, there already is a little bit of discrepancy between the GIS layers that Granite, the state's clearinghouse, has and what the tax maps have. So, there's little things like that if you want, we can spend some time with the GIS department to try to fix up those glitches, and maybe even our field work can help with that a little bit. So,
Well,
but
Mike-
that may
Mike
take a
here
little
is
while.
our GIS manager.
Oh, you are, Mike, there you go. All right, Mike, then speaking to the right person then. Great. So, yeah. So it's some minor stuff that you probably are aware of, We would try to get the field work completed in October before the hunting season. And then that all-important meeting with the commission, probably in November. Then we'd spend, the holidays come, of course, and it's hard. But January, we'd spend a good amount of time writing. We would target the end of January for our first draft, and then completing in the late winter. So that's suggested. And then the total cost around 23,000. I would put a range, maybe up to 25,000 or so for that.
When you're looking at going through the inventory, are you also kind of logging diseases that you see affecting the forest?
Yeah, that's
'Cause all these invasive insects and diseases seem to be attacking us at the same time.
definitely. If you want to Mike, if you want to go back to one of the slides there, you're absolutely right, that's ecological concerns. So there's a section there, forest pathogens and insects.
Oh, okay.
And that, we'll be spending, not just in the inventory, but spending, I'm thinking 6 days of field time between the two of us. The inventory is about 5 days of field time, and then another 3 days apiece of field time just walking that entire forest, That's what we do. It's just like that's what I've spent the last 40-plus years doing. And just taking notes on all of that. And so we'll have that very well summarized in the report, what is going on there with the pathogens and insects. And the latest one that's, you might have heard of, that's coming down the pike is beech leaf disease, which is really a worry. We'll see what happens. And that's coming on very quickly, so by next summer, you're probably going to see some of the effects. So, anyways. But no, good question, Marge. And I think each one of these items, there's a lot behind each one of these things. So,
Charlie, will it be progress billing? How will that work?
yeah, I think I would need to do that because we'll have so much time invested in it. And I don't know how that works easily for you guys. If we did something maybe to start the project and then maybe every third of the way or something like that, if that's possible.
Well,
What works?
similar projects that we've done that have had, progressive billing,
Okay.
they submit an invoice, I think they spell out the hours and what they were doing, and then we just submit it.
Yeah, okay. That sounds good. I can do that. And there's certain things that are just difficult to know how long it'll take. One of the little minor items, I don't even think I have that detail in here, but was that I need to contact New Hampshire Fish and Game and just kind of get together with them to see what they're thinking about the early successional patches, if there's any further funding, if there's any further desire from their part to continue the management for New England cottontail. That said, there's still very good value. That's valuable habitat. And whether we should retain all those sites and keep perpetuating them or let them grow back to forest, those are all parts of the decision that it would be great to have a little bit of their input so that you then can make a knowledgeable
We've
decision.
had the same question
Yeah,
going through our brains, and we had asked Fish and Game to fill us in, and I
Oh.
understand, they're short-staffed and overburdened, and,
yeah,
having a talk with us is not on their priority.
yeah.
Because we do recognize that maybe it didn't do what we wanted it to for the rabbits, but it did things we didn't expect for the birds.
You'll have some great birds there that you wouldn't have had otherwise, and in such a large block of forest. But again, it's costly to perpetuate that, and the maintenance of that has to happen fairly frequently, every 10 years or so. So maybe you let some of them go, and you'll have our input on that too, But I would very much, I think this will be a great opportunity to get together with Fish and Game and talk with them about that. That would be part of our process, but I think I allocated an hour and a half to that conversation, but it may mean meeting out there in the field with them and bringing you along as well. And it may mean a little more than that. Those are the sorts of things I'm not so sure, but I think it's really important to this.
And
So-
you have the advantage that you were in on it when we first started doing all that.
Yeah. And Melissa, several of the people are still there. So,
Heidi.
yeah, Heidi's still there, Melissa's still there, so, yeah, so we can,
So would you
Get
then
hold of it.
prepare a contract, Charlie, and we would basically enter into a contract with you?
yes,
And then that contract would spell out the dates you showed us?
yeah.
The only thing I'm a little bit, I want to make sure that your GIS guy doesn't duplicate the work that our GIS guy either has or could easily do, or that the agency say, I'll make like, you know, well, we certainly want to include the wildlife action plan, you know, but it's out there. I mean, it's there for the downloading, so to speak, those maps. I realize you're gonna want to add to that, and I'm hoping that your quote here is reflecting that a lot of that comes for free, and then you're just gonna, you know, make it more detailed, more appropriate to what we're dealing with. Is that a safe?
Very
assessment?
safe to say that. Yeah, like you're exactly right. What we do is we embed that into I think I allocated like half an hour to that, taking it out off the internet, embedding it into the plan, and then analyzing what the results are and doing a little write-up about it. I think I allocated that whole thing, that whole section, half an hour. Okay, so fair enough. I mean,
Yeah.
and even if you have it available, we still got to get it into the report. It's going to take a few minutes to do that. Do you see what I mean? So, but some of the other maps are a whole nother thing. You know, they take a little more time. That said, you know, Nick is very, very good with this, and it doesn't take him. He's not a rookie with it, you know. But I think also to interface with you, to make sure that everything is in sync would be great, you know. And there is probably some data out there that you already have that we don't have to duplicate.
Yeah, I could send you whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. And I very much, I think in my thinking of this was it included, I think I allocated an hour and a half to having Nick and you meet and just really get in sync with it, if it's okay with you.
Yeah, sure.
So,
Yeah, Charlie, one of the things we talked about several times has been the fact that we do need to do a cut out there. We've not done a cut in a long, long time, besides the rabbits.
right.
A real logging cut, and I always forget the name of that kind of cut, but it's not management, but there's a name.
Stand improvement?
Stand
Yeah,
improvement, I like
forest
that.
improvement.
And,
That's what it all would be.
So you know, I think we would be wanting to move on that fairly quickly, so.
That would be great. But there's logistics, you know,
Oh, I know, the roads.
like in a big picture sense, first to look at the whole land and say, okay, these are the areas that we're going to actually manage silviculturally. And that means that, you know, I usually aim for about a 15-year harvest cycle. These are all the things we haven't done on the land. We began to, and we never did. 15-year harvest cycle. So the harvest would be a very light cut, because in that 15-year interval before you come back, you want the forest to grow back and then some, okay? So that's sustainability for the long term. But we're not only trying to leave the healthy trees and the diversity of species, but we're trying to make little space with more sunlight for new growth. Because as that forest ages and it has a full canopy, there's not a lot of opportunity for many of the sunlight requiring species to regenerate and thrive. And we're talking the oaks, the pines, the maple, a lot of the species can't come up really under a full canopy. And so you end up with this high canopy forest with not a lot going underneath, except maybe a lot of beech and hemlock, which is dying and having, you know, but you end up with a much less species diverse forest. So a lot of the silviculture is really aimed at that, at looking at the future and trying to keep the full suite of species going, trying to get the age classes of the trees to mix and have a broad variety of age classes. So I talk a lot about that. I'll be talking a lot about that in the plan so that people in the future will understand where we were coming from, what we were trying to accomplish, and how this is an important thing to keep working with. It's not, I can't get this to happen overnight. It takes decades and centuries, really. Eventually, because I think that land is going to stay conservation land in 100 years, in 200 years, and I know we all go, what? You know, that's so far ahead, but there are other countries that have done this in Europe and whatnot, okay? Eventually, it would be great to have trees out there that are 300 plus years old. But amongst that, you also need trees that are 150 years old and 75 years old, and you need a lot of young growth too, because those are the replacement trees. That's what management is about. That's where I'm coming from on management. Of course, one of the benefits of management is that you have an income stream that is very helpful to the overall management. You're gonna need money to pay for getting rid of all the invasive plants, for example, or for keeping the property lines up, you know, those should be blazed and painted, and you're gonna need money for that, keeping the trail maintenance, you know, there's a fund, so it's things like that, so. That's where the management plan will help organize all that and project, so. Okay?
So what's our next step?
My next step, I'll send you I'll send you this, you know, the parts to the presentation so that everybody can look at it in detail. And then I'll send you a contract, Marge. And then we'll go forward. At this point, I think we could get started, as I said, next summer and go from there.
That we shouldn't have a problem earmarking that sum.
Oh, no, it's been there for a long time.
Long time waiting.
So are you thinking of paying this for this out of the maintenance, of the
Yes.
operator?
Yeah,
Okay,
because
good.
that's money that's come in from logging and other
Yeah.
sources like that, not from warrants or anything.
Let's get to work.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, great.
Thank you so
any-
much.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Joy.
great to see everybody, and I look forward to it. Okay.
Glenn, you're up next. If you have any stories.
No big stories. Bob got me the cards from the three cards from the Kendall Pond Conservation Area, and I reviewed 19,047 images,
Yikes.
yeah, over a
Not
2-day
much-
period.
Not much uses of that site, huh?
So, nothing to report, nothing major. Everybody was behaving. But I was briefly excuse me, I was briefly talking to Bob when he came in. I have a Spy Point camera at home that goes right to my phone. You never have to maintain it, just the batteries last forever. And I was thinking if we got 3 of those, I mean, I'll put a proposal for you, I'll do all the research, you get everything in. And then, there's like a, I think you
That's
do
Nick's
an annual fee for
email as well.
unlimited number of photos. Because I know I pay $5 and I get 1,000 photos, just for one camera. And that way, we never have to put ladders up on the ice, snow, whatever. And if I need to get in there, if like something went wrong, something happened, I can go right in and get it.
Do we have to have an internet account or something to
No,
go with
go right
that?
to the, what I can do is, I mean, they gave me a cell phone when I started this job, and I never used it, so I gave it back. And I know there's phones over there at the PD that I'm pretty sure I can get one. And have it go to that. I don't want to go to my phone. I don't want some of those pictures on my phone. So I can probably do that. I'm sure that wouldn't be an issue. I'll put together a proposal
All right,
and the
yeah,
numbers and
let's
everything and
Look into it.
get it to you.
Yeah, some of those are solar powered. I don't know if we have enough light.
Yeah, some of
With
them are
solar or
solar
not.
powered too.
We may not have enough. We don't have much sky view from most of those. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I
and
just don't know.
do they run on batteries? Are they gonna,
Yep,
they
I've got
suck
the
up a lot of
lithium
batteries?
I've got lithium batteries in mine, and it's been out there for 6 months, and it's still reading like 93%. It goes right to your phone, gives you everything, all the information right
Yeah.
on your phone.
And how often do we change the batteries in the ones we have now?
Once a year to 18 months. So similar. But there's no cell in the ones we
Right.
have. They're passive unless they're triggered.
I'll write something up, get all the numbers and stuff.
All right. And then we can segue into the next section.
I have a couple things too for old business.
All right, Glenn and I went out to Red Fern to look at some beaver activity, which they've been very busy. And there are some pictures loaded up. This is backyard, and this was after the rain we just have?
Yes,
So,
and that's looking
I
directly
knew there was
across
gonna
the
be trouble after that rain.
There's the Hickory Hill trailhead right there. The
Yeah.
water's isolated us.
And this, Red Fern is off of Pine Hollow. which is off of
Rolling Ridge.
Rolling Ridge, thank you. And actually, this, this whole wet goes all the way over here. And when I was leaving your house, I noticed there's two little fingers that come right out to Pine Hollow. And one is, it's not too long before that becomes an issue with that street.
It's pretty incredible. The dam goes right across the end of Red Fern all the way to the power lines, which has basically made this its own pond. And with the
Yeah.
more rain we get, it has no place to go. Because it normally would drain into Watts Brook, farther down by the golf course.
Well, I went out and after visiting this location, I went in Hickory Hill and tried to walk around and try and see where the actual dam was, but it is just, it goes on forever.
Like 100 yards, maybe?
Oh,
Yeah.
it could be more.
I estimate
It's
between
a
100 and
big deal.
150 yards.
Yeah, and it's also, Mike, did you get this did that get loaded up? I don't remember what I called it. Well, anyways, I couldn't see the dam, but when I was out there, I went in Hickory Hill and I followed the power lines that go and kind of jog back towards,
Northwest.
yeah. And I couldn't find the dam, but I could find a ton of trees that had been chewed down by the beavers. So and freshly. So they are into it pretty heavy. And the last picture that's loaded up here is the dam that's right beside their house. That,
See, it meanders around, it goes around past that felled tree and continues on. I've never been to the end of it. It's, on the other side, it gets about 4 or 5 feet tall. It's quite a bit of water. It's a pond.
so the dilemma is, what do we do? We can break down the dam, but that's just a temporary solution. Do we call the beaver guy?
Is this Musquash
Yes.
land,
Mm-hmm.
town land?
It's the Muskov Tract, which is part of the Musquash.
Which I'd never heard that name
Marcoux,
before.
yeah, Marcoux. That's what's on the aerial map here. Marcoux was a family that they owned
Oh, it says
land.
I referred to it as a Muskov. but-
Yeah, I thought it said
Well,
Muskoff. So
I
it
think
could be
there's some, maybe
others.
some typos and some strange things going on, because it was Marcoux.
Okay.
And it was just a little bit of a budding, or they gave up part of their lot a long
add
time
to,
ago.
yeah.
Yeah, just to,
Could we put up the town map?
The GIS,
Yeah, just,
Red Fern. And when I zoom in from GIS, you can't tell, you can't see the open water. It's, I don't know, yeah.
yeah, see, that whole thing around the neighborhood is which we bought from the Marcoux people.
Okay, because I,
Yes, that's it.
It's
there.
highlighted.
I was walking, I came in around here, I got to about here. Oh, here. I came in here and I kind of went down lower. And this is where all the beaver were cutting down the trees.
Can you
What?
stand,
Yeah,
thank you.
but I was getting cold,
just
so
curious.
I didn't keep going. But it goes around the point.
So where's the house now from, you've arrowed,
The house is here,
There.
oh, okay.
and I think the dam goes like this.
Oh, my goodness.
It goes across towards that narrowest point.
Yeah,
Right there, it goes
'cause-
right across there.
This is high ground, and this is low. So I think the dam just kind of butts into where it turns into high ground, and that's the end of it. But I couldn't get there. Yeah.
Yeah, we've lived there 10 years and never had water back there. Not like that.
Well, we see
There is a lot right now.
but not, it's gonna be in the backyard soon.
Yeah.
so the town owns this Marcoux property, right? That
Yeah, that's just considered part of the Musquash now.
And then your backyard ends about where the water starts now, is that?
No, my property goes back another 100 to 150 feet, but there's an easement. I don't build back there. It's protected.
See, maybe that was this was really a long time ago. I mean, Gene, you must remember this.
I'm trying to remember all of it, and,
I know,
yeah.
it gets
Well,
harder.
Redfern's
One of the
get-
pieces
getting
that we had a lot of
its,
fun with,
It
because
was-
it was a
the
10% piece.
news here.
Yeah.
It was more than 10 years ago. It was before you guys bought the property.
So, which house are we talking about, or is it
actually-
affecting all of those along?
There's actually 3 of them, Mike.
Yeah, all these along
Yeah,
here.
there's 3 houses facing that, yes, the Musquash right there.
And then this ends up, the road is here, and this, the water is right up to the edge of the road.
Yeah,
that's
I saw that today.
That's high range.
Yeah.
It's blocked it all the way back there, from Hickory Hill to High Range, over to us, all the way down to Sarabeth. Well, Sarabeth is past us.
Sounds like we need to get the beaver guy.
That's what I'm thinking.
Dodge. This guy, he does it for the state.
Oh, sweet.
Can't
Is
remember,
this who we've used before?
I probably can't remember that either.
Yeah, I might have
Oh,
it. in-
could very well be.
But, am I remembering that was a very temporary fix?
Well, they said they remember 12, 15 years ago having to do this, where,
Yeah, several of my neighbors have been there 35 years.
Yeah, they remember.
They remember
Yeah.
way
Yeah.
before us.
Yeah.
But I mean, when we had the problem at the golf course,
right,
we trapped the beavers.
Yeah.
And one intrepid beaver remained, and if it didn't take them even a year to have everything put back together.
right.
Just moved up to my neighborhood.
That could be.
I mean, I'm wondering if like a beaver deceiver structure might be more effective than trapping them.
I think consulting with a beaver expert
Is the first step, yeah.
is,
Yeah,
but the tricky part is gonna be getting in there. Which
Well, he
actually
probably
might
has
be good
waders.
in the
He
winter
probably
once,
has waders and then,
well,
and then some.
if it ever gets cold enough to freeze, then you can walk right on the top and then maybe it would be easier in the winter.
I don't know what those
Yeah.
guys do in the wintertime.
Dodge, I have a question. However we do this and release the water, where's that water gonna go? Because we had an incident at the north end of town a few months ago where it washed out a house, a driveway, and a car. The construction company did it up
That
off
has
Kitty
occurred
Road.
to me, that we can't just, blow it up and let
Yeah.
it go.
Right, that's, because if you take the beavers out, the dam stays and should just sort of quietly
Disintegrate.
disintegrate, though members of my family had some fun with Duck Pond one time. So,
Well, I think it naturally goes away from there. After us is Fairway. There's a section of Fairway and then Sarabeth Lane, the only other 2 outcroppings before the golf course and the Musquash. Fairway would be the only one I would think would have a concern, but it's fairly open. You can see it's all wooded after us, after we get around the corner.
Yeah, ideally, it would have to be a slow release, I
Yeah,
think.
absolutely.
yeah.
So you don't want waterfront property anymore, or what?
No.
It was cute for a while, but that last rain over the weekend caused me
Yeah.
sleepless nights.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're in trouble too of red fern. It's coming around my property. I'm an island between myself and the 2 neighbors, and getting to the road. So the road would become impassable a few more rains.
Eventually, yeah.
Then we'll own our own island.
Did you say the road was impassable?
No,
No, it will be.
Oh.
yes.
Yeah,
But it's
that,
not just behind the house, it's coming between us and the neighbor. It never was ever wet there, that's just the water backing up, so eventually it's gonna come right out on Red Fern, and then it's gonna flood the people on the other side of the street.
Do you or your neighbors get water in your basement?
Not yet.
We've never had that.
No. Knock on wood.
that's Watts Brook?
The Watts Brook is up farther north of us, but it's the very end.
Yeah, I think
There's
it
a few little
feeds into
tributaries.
Watts.
Yes, it feeds into Watts. There's a few little stream beds that we see after rainstorms will get a little water and they'll dissipate quickly when the water can flow out. But as you can see from the backyard, they've all overflown their banks.
That actually ends up in Litchfield where you're going down past the airport on 3A, there's like a little curve there, there's a couple of curves. Right before you hit Corning Road, which turns into
Yeah.
Litchfield Road, that's where that ends up going through that Watts Brook.
Yeah, I live right there where Watts Brook is the edge of my property.
Nice. It's a nice running
It is.
stream in
It's-
our neck of the woods.
Well, we're willing
You
to
get
share.
flooded out when they open this up?
No, I have a deep ravine, so, but, what was it? After the rainstorm, when I looked at what Watts Brook was doing at my house, I knew your house was in trouble. So,
Well, I
All right.
appreciate you coming up to take a look at it.
well, we'll get in touch with our beaver expert and see if we can't do something sooner rather than later, because I can't imagine it's gonna get any better on its own.
No, I'm worried winter melt. That's why I want
Yeah.
to get it before the snow and then the winter melt in the spring. If it's another rainy year, I'll be living at the Best Western with my wife.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else for old business that we have?
Sure. I have the October only financials, which give us $101,000 in our Habitat account.
Nice.
So, because we had that timber sale part of, in July. We also have 607 and change in our open space protection fund with $33,499.47 of land use change tax money that was deposited in November, so it's part of October, but it's still pending as far as my form of accounting is, but we have it. And no other big bills. So that's pretty straightforward. I don't know if you, since I didn't see anything, but Ariana from RCCD is gonna be doing the Ingersoll property
Oh, right.
on Thursday.
Glenn can't make it.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody else wants to go with her.
I don't
'cause
know.
We were having some encroachment issues, I
But
recall.
there was ATV issues.
Okay.
And she spoke to someone at the Water Protection Group and said there's a grant that we might be able to get to help block off some of the ATV traffic. But we're too late for '24, we'd have to do it in '25. And there was also something about Forest Society maybe springing for some help
I was
with
gonna say,
that.
because we don't own the land, do we? We only hold the easement or something. We're not the
Right.
primary.
Mike would know the fancy name for that. We're not the primary. We're the
You talking
second
about
layer, Ingersoll.
Ingersoll.
Ingersoll, yeah. We hold an easement on the Forest Society, who owns the land. So,
So the
yeah.
Property
theoretically,
owner
it's-
would be responsible for rectifying the
But I think that
encroachments.
there's somebody that wants to talk. She couldn't, I thought it was Wendy Weisiger, who was their land manager at Spinoff, but she didn't recognize that name, so I don't know who this person was that,
Oh,
but anyway, she's going Thursday. And I don't know what time. And, oh, I have the contract.
Yep, I have that.
Oh, you have one too, okay.
You emailed it to me,
I did, okay.
which this is her estimate, not her invoice. So we wait for the invoice and then we pay it?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. That, I
I think we got
that's what
hung
we've
up on
done.
that another time.
Right.
I think that's it for me.
All right. Which, yes, that's it for old business unless,
I have a bill from the Forest Society.
Yep, I was gonna,
I think that, is that old business or? new
I was
business?
gonna do it as new, but
Oh, okay,
it's- we
that's
can
fine.
put it in the middle and make it in between. So we have Forest Society's bill for Lithia, and it is $19,063, which we would take out of the open space fund, if anybody cared to make a motion.
Let me just explain, it's broken down into three parts. If, about $4,000 is the staff time, so that's what they put into drafting the easement and negotiating about 20 different versions of it with the many stakeholders that we had involved. And then 14,000 is our contribution to their stewardship fund. So they have agreed to take on the stewardship of the property. So if you think about what we're paying for a one-time stewardship, paying 14,000 in perpetuity is probably pretty economical. And then 1,000 is a insurance. They participate in a nationwide insurance program that is used to protect conservation land from lawsuits. So if somebody popped up and said, no, that there's a loophole here and we're gonna put that hotel in after all, and there's a lawsuit, then this agency represents us in court, and, you know, so that's what that $1,000 goes to. So that's how you get to 19,000, but really it's only $4,000 worth of real work, which is normally around 10,000, but because we did a lot of the work for them, we were able to get it down. So with that, I would move that we approve the invoice of $19,063 to the Forest Society for work on Lithia Springs.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Oppose? Abstain? Motion passed unanimous. And I'll give you this at the, to deliver to finance, if you wouldn't mind. And then, new business is the Merrill easement.
Right, so hopefully you
Thanks.
got, with very little time to read it, a copy of the easement as it's being proposed, and a copy of the environmental study. So there's no action required on the environmental study, but that was just to let everybody know that I did the report and we found no environmental conditions that would cause us to not want to take an interest in this property. So then the easement itself is fairly standard. Most of the things that you're accustomed to. I will point out that normally land is restricted to agriculture, forestry, outdoor recreation. And that's the case here. They asked specifically that we make a note that small animal husbandry, which is actually a term that we had to invent for this, because usually you just talk about animal husbandry. But given the steep slopes and the wetlands, there's really, I don't think, it wouldn't be appropriate to allow for the possibility of cattle or bison or horses, anything like that on this property. But goats are a possibility. So even the state's definition of agriculture includes animal husbandry, and the easement allows agriculture. So theoretically, they are, it would be allowed. But what we've done really is narrowed it and said small animal husbandry. And in the easement definition of agriculture, we don't mention husbandry at all, so I put it in as a separate thing. But a person could probably make a case that animal husbandry is agriculture, and agriculture is allowed. So we've just made it clear what that really means. And then later on in the easement, where we talk about the various restrictions on agriculture and forestry, you got a forestry plan and all that sort of thing. We, under animal husbandry, we said that it must be in accordance with the Department of Agriculture, Farms and Markets, that's a New Hampshire department, a manual of best management practices. And that those practices include things like manure management and, stuff that would be a threat from animals to, our interest in this land. They have a reserve right to allow for what's called agritourism. So they could they could make, I don't know, like have some kind of tour of a group of people or a family, going around the property, and they could actually charge them for that. What they cannot do, and what the owners have actually made clear they do not want, is to have the right to have overnight stays. So there can be no structure that's only there for the purposes of an overnight stay, like a yurt or something like that. If it's for agriculture or forestry, that's allowed, but you can't have a structure whose purpose is simply camping, basically. So that's out, but we could, that they have the right, if they want to allow somebody to camp on the property, and then they would have to give that person written permission, and they would have to copy us. So if it gets to be abusive, we would know that. And I think those are probably the big things to point out that are, just slightly different from what we normally see.
Mike,
in
I
our
found
easements.
maybe a typo.
There's a couple of typos in there that involve Caroline Schultz's spelling of her name.
No, this is in that CA, page 8, CA. I don't think it's small animal husbandry conservation, but I think, but maybe I'm wrong. It's by your little red line on C, page 8C. There we go. So I feel like there should be a comma after husbandry. But
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yep. All right.
I don't know, I just saw that on the way through. I did not proofread this whole thing.
Okay, I'll go back. So C1A. Got it. So if everybody is satisfied with this, the town council is going to, I think, consider it at their next meeting.
Which is Monday.
This coming Monday. And then they will give the town manager final authority to sign the easement, and with any kind of luck, we could close by the end of the year.
Which is our goal.
Yes.
And this is our last meeting of the year, and Monday is the town council's last meeting of the year.
Right,
So
so let's get it good.
This is do or die.
Yeah, right, right. Well, I mean, we would hold it up if there's some legitimate reason, but right now, everything seems to be in order. They've reviewed the baseline documentation. They're happy with that. Their lawyer is happy with this. We'll have to fix those typos, but, I think we're ready to go here.
It's pretty exciting, actually. It's
Yeah,
Yeah, we're
Kind of a
waiting on title
low-key.
work.
yep. We do need to get the title work yet to complete the property description. You may have noticed it's not attached to the easement. It's just a placeholder. So I want to make sure that what I say, refer to the source deeds, that I get that exactly right based on the title report. But the meets and bounds have already been written and, checked in, and they're ready to go. So if there's no other questions, I will move, Madam Chair, that we recommend to the council that they accept this easement as written and enter into the agreement with Ken Merrill and Caroline Schultz to acquire a conservation easement on their property.
Seconded?
Okay, motion by Mike, seconded by Jean. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion passed unanimous. That's all I have for business, unless somebody else has something.
I'll move we adjourn.
Thank you.
Do we gonna do the minutes from the last
Oh,
meeting?
yeah, that's probably
But
good.
I don't see them on here, so that
They're,
means it-
yeah, they're there.
it's like a puzzle whenever every time I see these.
It's the third one from the bottom, I think.
Oh, it's just, okay, I just don't. Okay,
Yeah.
I have a couple things to say about that. And this may be just kind of being somewhat pedantic. On 70, she says I recuse, G. Levens recused herself from the commission. I don't think that's what I did. I think
Oh,
I
from-
recused myself
from the discussion.
Discussion.
the discussion.
Okay.
Okay, that's on page, on 70. On 86, funny how you always find things that have to do with yourself. Is a new owner at Nevins. I'm not a new resident as of yet. And Nevins is spelled wrong there.
Oh, yeah.
What line was that?
86. And then I returned to the
It's
discussion.
actually, I would like to be a resident at Nevis, which is a beautiful island.
Island, yes, yes.
But it's the Nevins.
We'll come visit.
So
Just
somebody rewrite line 91 too.
Oh, yeah.
So I unrecused myself, but that's not right. Jean, you're the wordsmith.
Return to the discussion.
Sure. That
Return to
works.
the board, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
commission. Oh, that is the commission.
It is the commission, though. That's what I was trying to figure out.
Oh. I never left the commission, I just left the
Yeah, right.
discussion.
Yeah, discussion is a good,
Yeah, okay, thank you. I really did read all the minutes, but I didn't find anything else that I recognized.
I'll make a motion, we accept the minutes as amended.
Second.
any further discussion? Motion by Jean, second by David. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstain? Motion passed unanimous?
All right.
Now you're gonna accept my motion to adjourn?
I will.
So long as somebody seconds it.
Right.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Jean, second by Deb. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.